Welcome to the Tier 0 update for the ultimate top tier Maliss guide. The new cards you must play are Allied Code Talker, 3 backup Ignister, and 1 Wizard. This is your new mandatory core deck on how to play Maliss. The new Ignister cards are not optional, they are not a different way to play the deck, they are the way to play this deck. Backup Ignister provides 3 new starters and extenders. Wizard is a big 2-card extender, and the power ceiling of the deck goes up with Allied Code Talker Ignister giving you an Omni Negate and Banish. The combos we'll be showcasing will be a backup Ignister combo, Dormouse Combo, White Rabbit Combo, and Maliss and Underground Combo. And of course, I'll be including combos against Lancea. All of these combos are newly updated and exclusive to Master Duel, which means if you are not fully utilizing Apollo USA and Link Decoder when you can, you are not playing this correctly. We're going to start with the new Dormouse Combo, which requires any card in your hand for discarding. And we will be comparing the end field to what it previously was without the Ignister cards. Let's begin by normal summoning our Dormouse, activating to banish a March Hare from the deck, triggering the March Hare to add back to our hand, and then we're going to make use to a card banned in the TCG, link off the Dormouse into our Link Decoder. Now we're going to follow up March Hare activate to non-target banish the Dormouse from our graveyard, summoning March Hare, triggering the Dormouse to come forth and summon itself back onto the field. Now we're going to turn all 3 into the Red Ransom. You want to chain link block the Red Ransom, put it on lower chain link 1, with the Decoder on chain link 2. Thus, now it cannot get Ash Blossomed. Reborn back Decoder, let's resolve the Red Ransom, searching for our Mouse and Underground. Now, this is where they would have to Nibiru. This is a Nibiru check. They're going to expect you to summon an Apollo USA, but we are going to be changing up our play after the Nibiru check, and if they do for some reason hold on to the Nibiru later, we will still be able to play through it. We're going to link off the Link Decoder and Red Ransom into our Cyburst Wicked, a new must-have in your extra deck. We're going to activate the Mouse and Underground. We're not banishing the Mouse and Mirror because we don't have an Apollo in the field. If it were to get Ash Blossom, we would lose right here, right now. We are ensuring that we still properly play around hand traps while also making a better end field. Let's banish from the deck the White Rabbit, which will trigger to summon itself back on the field. It has to be summoned to where the Wicked is pointing to, and we want to put the Wicked on the lower chain link because this is another Ash choke point. We're going to put the White Rabbit on the higher chain link as we use the effect of the Wicked on a cost that is to banish the Red Ransom, which will resolve by searching our deck for the new Ignister. White Rabbit's going to set a GWC as we search for the backup Ignister. Red Ransom's going to trigger, summon itself onto the field, and we're going to banish the deck of Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat's going to summon itself onto the field. Now, if for an unfortunate reason they were to wait with their Nibiru for this moment as they did not instead use it before you would possibly summon an Apollo USA, you could still extend with your backup Ignister. While I didn't have Link Spider in the core extra deck, I will be playing it myself, and I do expect many others to also be playing it. This will allow you to turn the Nibiru token into the Link Spider so that you could summon afterward your backup Ignister. Let's now make our Apollo USA, ensuring that we didn't summon a Splash Mage early. We want to make use of the Apollo as we now make a Lingeribo. And after that, we're going to be using the backup Ignister. We need the Lingeribo on field to even summon this because we have to control a Cyberse monster that was summoned from the extra deck in order to special summon this, which will now on summon activate. Again, they would want to Ash this, but we could use the Apollo to negate it, and we could also use Lingeribo to negate an impermanence if they wanted to hold on to it at this point, stopping you from searching for a Wizard. We have to discard a card after searching with the backup Ignister, and now we're going to use Wizard to reborn a monster in grave, which will be our Dormouse. Let's now turn a bunch of bodies, 3 of them, into a Heart Cryptor, and then from there we're going to use the Lingeribo and the Cryptor to turn them into our Splash Mage. We already summoned Apollo, so it's okay to go into the Cyberse lock, Splash Mage, reborn any of our Mouse monsters, turn the Splash Mage and Dormouse into a White Binder. White Binder on summon is going to activate to banish from engrave, targeting the Cryptor. We're going to higher chain link GWC. By doing so, it will ensure that they cannot use Ash Blossom onto the Binder. Even though we already have an Apollo, we do not want them to have a good opportunity to use Ash and then bait us and then possibly chain a Nibiru to that play. So we are going to now, with the White Binder being banished plus the Cryptor, put it on the lower chain link, Cryptor on the higher chain link here, and then Cryptor's going to come back, so we're blocking the effect also of an Impulse if they were holding on to that. And now the White Binder comes back. We're going to be drawing a card from the White Binder. We're going to be resetting a GWC from the graveyard back onto the field. Now we're going to turn the Cryptor and White Binder into a Firewall Dragon. We are going to now activate the Firewall Dragon and add 2 cards in grave back to our hand. Now mind you, let's say the opponent activated a Maxi early in our turn, we activated an Ash Blossom. We could use the Firewall to add the Ash Blossom from from engrave back to our hand, recycling its effect. And that would be a good idea if we already have another Maliss monster in hand to banish with the Chessy Cat, because that's the only reason why we're adding back this Dormouse. Now, in addition to the Dormouse, we do have a March Hare, which is very important here. We're going to banish the Dormouse, draw 2 cards, and then we're going to link off our 3 bodies into the Allied Code Talker Ignister. It is very important that we summon this on the far left or on the far right side of our field, because once you activate the effect, you have to summon as many bodies as possible from the graveyard, and ideally we want to keep the White Binder in graveyard unless we're using it to co-link with the Firewall Dragon. Thus, by putting the Ignister on the left side, we only have to summon 1 body, and we want to summon the Red Ransom. Now, what is this field and how does it compare to the other Dormouse play? Without Ignister, this is what we accomplished. We would have Apollo with 2 monster negates. I showcased us negating an Ash within the combo. We'd have a GWC but no March Hare to reborn the White Binder, which would then give us access to the MTP to non-target banish. We'd have 3 drawn cards, and then we would either have a Cryptor on the field or a Terahertz if you were playing that. Instead, with the new combo, we still have the Apollo USA, we still have the 3 draws, we had to discard a card though, we still have the GWC, we still have the ability to White Binder, go into the MTP to non-target banish, but what we gained in addition, we +1'd a March Hare, we +1'd access to Cryptor, and we replaced the Cryptor or Terahertz that would be on the field instead with an Allied Code Talker Ignister, which gives us an Omni negate. Thus, the power of this deck, even with its 1-card Dormouse, has become better. Now let's showcase how to use the disruptions. Opponent's gonna max C. We have Apollo for an easy negate, because we do plan on special summoning a ton of times within this turn. Negate. Now, the opponent's gonna be cheeky, entering the battle phase with a board breaker. Evenly match has to banish every card in our field except 1. Well, what are we gonna do here? We're gonna use the Allied Code Talker Ignister to negate and banish the evenly matched. The versatility of the Allied Code Talker being able to negate anything. We're also going to Lingaribo, tribute off the Allied Code Talker to summon itself onto the field in case they have any other follow-up trap effects, which could be Impulse, possibly an Impermanence, which would be used late, or if you're playing the mirror match, you could negate the opposing player's GWC, MTP, come forth, back onto the field our Lingaribo, negate and banish the evenly matched. He has another evenly matched. We're going to Lingaribo, negate the evenly matched. Now, let's see what else this Mad Lad is up to with our other forms of disruption. He's going to send Aggregator to summon X-Ryzeal. Aggregator in the higher chain link, thus we can't negate the X-Ryzeal. The Apollo will just negate or get negated by the Aggregator. Let's resolve the effect of the X-Ryzeal to search the deck. Now, what he searched for was a Sword Ryzeal, even though it's not showing it for some reason. And the Sword Ryzeal requires there to be a Ryzeal on the field or in the graveyard in order to special summon. And also, possibly what could be in their hand or later in the turn, if they search for it, would be a Node Ryzeal, which requires an Xyz monster to be on the field or in the graveyard. So on this resolution, we do want to respond to their play. What we're going to do is GWC. It gets called by the grave onto our White Binder. That is unfortunate. Well, because this combo gives us an additional March Hare, we could stop or play through a Call by the Grave or even play through a Ghost Spell negating your GWC. And Ghost Spell, I believe, is becoming a lot more popular. Let's March Hare in response to the finger, banish away our White Binder here, summon the March Hare, and let's resolve this. Binder is going to be summoned after we reborn the White Rabbit with the GWC, since GWC does not target on its activation. We're also Chain Link block in the White Binder, so it does not get Ash Blossomed. Very important here, Chain Link block. The Mad Lad could have had a Call by the Grave and an Ash Blossom, and now he cannot stop that. Now, he could use Ash onto the MTP, but we do have the Cryptor effect, which could also banish if they were to negate the MTP. Binder is going to be making sure to banish away the opposing player's Aggregator, plus our own Red Ransom and the Heart's Cryptor here. Let's now reborn them all back. We want to put the Cryptor behind the Apollo so that it is pointing to a monster to ensure it cannot be negated. We're also going to banish from the deck a March Hare with the effect of the Red Ransom. And with the Cryptor now here and non-negatable, we are ready to banish any card in the field. We also have Red Ransom searching our deck for a follow-up play. It could be another field spell. It could be a Maliss and Mirror, whatever you want. The March Hare is also a follow-up play. We're going to MTP, and if this were to get negated, we could instead use the Heart's Cryptor. We're going to banish away the X-Ryzeal. Now he has to normal summon the Sword Ryzeal. There's no way to special summon it. Let's trigger the effect of the White Rabbit being banished by the MTP. Come forth back onto the field. It's going to normal summon the Sword Ryzeal, search his deck for an Ice Ryzeal, and he can't use it, and then hopelessly just summoning the Ice after already using up his normal summon. We're going to banish away with the Heart's Cryptor with a ton of drawn cards. We have drawn 4 cards in total from our turn and theirs, plus all the forms of disruption, stopping the board breakers, negate, negate, just like that, mate. Time for the Backup Ignister play. Backup Ignister is a starter and an extender. Now, it's not a true one-card starter. It requires us to normal summon literally any monster whatsoever, get it onto the field, and then we're going to go from there. If you have a hand trap like a Mulcharmy, which will be no good during the opponent's turn if you're going first, you're going to want to normal summon that. And of course, only if this is your only play, and ideally you would normal summon a Maliss instead. You want to link off the Mulcharmy or hand trap anything into the Almirage. This is required to be a normal summon monster with 1000 or less attack, which is all of the relevant hand traps. Now we could special summon the Backup Ignister, activate on field, search our deck for a Dormouse, and because we have to discard, we're going to discard the Dormouse because we already used up our normal summon. Thus, we're now going to go into a Lizard Dose. Why not a Splash Mage? Well, the Splash Mage would lock us out from summoning our Apollo USA, and if Konami's not going to ban this, then we're going to abuse it. Let's Lizard Dose by cost. They cannot imperm negate this. We're going to banish away the Dormouse trigger, some back onto the field. Let's speed this up a bit. We're going to banish a White Rabbit, not a March Hare, as the White Rabbit, when banished, summons itself here to activate and set from the deck. I'm going to set up our GWC as we link off into a Red Ransom. Red Ransom activates searching for the Mouse in Underground as we now go into our Apollo play. Just like that, making use of the Apollo, we're going to banish a Maliss in the Mirror from the deck. They can't ash it because the Apollo will negate. Let's search for a March Hare, trigger the Red Ransom here, summon itself back in the field, banish a Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat is back. Banish the March Hare from the hand, draw 2, add the March Hare back to the hand after being banished. Let's further link our 2 bodies into our Splash Mage. Splash Mage summoned after the Apollo, reborn the Dormouse from the grave. Let's further link into the White Binder. White Binder is going to be banished by the GWC, reborn back onto the field, the Red Ransom. Now, we're going to activate the effect of the White Binder, which we can negate Ash with the Apollo, summon itself back on the field, draw a 3rd card for the turn. We're now going to reset the GWC, link off into a Firewall Dragon right behind the Apollo USA, and that is our Backup Ignister starter play. It, of course, is not ideal, and you should be drawing into the other mouse cards, and if they were to be disrupted, interrupted in any way whatsoever, you could then follow up with your Backup Ignister. But just having access to this combo where Backup Ignister could be your only starter play makes the deck a lot more consistent. In addition to the usual disruptions you know of already, the Firewall Dragon can target a monster on the field or in the graveyard, return it back. We unfortunately do not have access to a Cryptor, but we still have access to reborning the Binder to then banish from the graveyard the White Rabbit and or the Red Ransom so that the White Rabbit could summon onto the field and then set an MTP from the deck to then non-target banish a card in the field. Here's the new Mouse and Underground field spell combo play. We're going to start this off with a field spell, banish from the deck our Dormouse, Dormouse trigger, summon itself back onto the field, activate Dormouse, banish from the deck our White Rabbit, come forth and summon. We are not banishing a March Hare here. With the White Rabbit, we're going to set an MTP, not a GWC, because we have not used up our normal summon yet. That's going to be the main reason why, if you want to be remembering for that. Splash Mage, reborn the Dormouse from engrave as we further go into the Red Ransom. Red Ransom is activating to search our deck. We're going to chain MTP. Let's resolve this. Grab a Chessy Cat from the deck. Red Ransom is going to be resolving, searching for the Mouse and Mirror. Red Ransom is going to trigger, reborn back onto the field, banish from the deck a March Hare to add that March Hare back to our hand. Now, with our open normal summon, we're going to normal summon the Chessy Cat, activate, we're going to banish the Mouse and Mirror, draw 2 cards, trigger the Mirror, banish the Dormouse. We're going to be searching our deck for a 2nd copy of the March Hare. I'm now going to be linking off these 2 bodies into the Cyberse Wicked. With the Cyberse Wicked, we're going to March Hare, banish the Chessy Cat here, and this ensures we could chain link block the Cyberse Wicked from being negated. Cyberse Wicked on the higher chain link, I should say the lower chain link, is going to be banishing the Splash Mage as we put the Chessy Cat on the higher chain link to chain link block the Cyberse Wicked from an Ash Blossom as we now safely search for our Backup Ignister. Backup Ignister is going to special summon, search in our deck for a Wizard. We're going to discard one of our other cards we don't care for. We're going to link off into a Link Decoder. And now with 3 bodies behind the Wicked, we're going to be making a Harp's Cryptor. Now with the Harp's Cryptor plus the Wicked, we're first going to trigger the Link Decoder, summon itself back in the field. And now with the Link 2 plus the Cryptor, we're going to be making the White Binder. White Binder is going to activate, banishing the Cryptor and the MTP. We want the MTP banished because we're going to return it back in the deck with the Cryptor. Cryptor, when banished, is going to be reset resummoning itself back onto the field. And now we're going to be activating the White Binder to set a trap from the deck or graveyard as we chain the Heart's Cryptor to return the MTP back in the deck to banish away the White Binder. Now when the White Binder is banished, it will trigger on a separate chain link after we set up the GWC, summon itself onto the field here, and we're going to draw a card. Now I do want the White Binder to be pointing to behind one of the extra monster zones, because we're now going to use the link decoder in the Heart's Cryptor to summon a Firewall Dragon right next to the White Binder, not in the extra monster zone. This is very important. Now we're going to Wizard. Wizard is going to be reborning the Chessy Cat back onto the field, and we're going to be linking it off into a Lingaribo. Now from here, we're going to be using the Lingaribo, White Binder, and our extra monster going into the Allied Code Talker Ignister. This will activate on summon, summoning from the graveyard a Red Ransom and a White Binder. Good question here could be, why do we not have the White Binder engraved to reborn with the GWC or banish the March Hare? Well, that is to ensure that the Firewall Dragon can now return up to 3 monsters from either field and either graveyard. You could return your own hand traps back to your hand. You could return a follow-up back to your hand while also returning cards from their graveyard or their field back to their hand. And then similar to the other fields we were making, we still have access to the Cryptor, the MTP, we have the March Hare plus the GWC, the Omni Negate with the Allied Code Talker mate plus the Lingaribo, which contribute over the Allied Code Talker, which is very good for the mirror match. There's an example of the Firewall Dragon targeting 3 cards. I'm going to add back the Wizard, add back the March Hare, return back their monster, and we could have targeted all 3 of their own monsters if we had the option to do so. The new and improved White Rabbit combo using the Ignister support. We're going to be normal summoning our White Rabbit, activate set from the deck, and MTP. Why not GWC? It's literally not activatable because there's nothing that's banished in the graveyard to activate it with. And why not a TB11? Well, a lot of people are not playing TB11. So for this example, we have the MTP set. MTP is going to banish the White Rabbit, searching for the March Hare. As the White Rabbit triggers to summon itself back on the field, we're going to March Hare banish the only copy of a Maliss card from our hand or graveyard, which will be the MTP, to summon itself onto the field. And now with our 2 bodies, we're going to turn both of them into our Splash Mage. With the Splash Mage, we're going to reborn a monster from Engrave. I'm going to be targeting the March Hare because it has not been banished yet. So if they were to have a Bestial, they would be banishing the March Hare. Then we at least get to add it back to our hand instead of them banishing the White Rabbit when we target it, and then we'd have to end our turn from there with nothing. Let's further link this up into our Red Ransom. Red Ransom on summon is going to be searching our deck for the Mouse in Underground, banishing from the deck a Dormouse. Dormouse is going to be summoning itself onto the field. Banish from the deck a Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat, come forth and summon. And then we're going to further link off the Dormouse and the Red Ransom into a Cyberse Wicked. Now, we're going to be turning the Chessy Cat into a link decoder. Now, don't worry, we will be using Chessy Cat within this turn to draw 2 cards. Wicked's going to be triggering to banish from Engrave the Red Ransom, to search our deck for a backup Ignister. Red Ransom will trigger, summon itself onto the field, banish from the deck a March Hare. March Hare, add back to our hand here. And let's now backup Ignister, summon itself onto the field, search our deck for a Wizard, discard a Beaver Warrior, and now we're going to be using the field to go into a Heart's Cryptor. It is important to have the mindset of try to do as much as you can before committing to the Wizard. If they were to Nibiru you, you could at least follow up with the Wizard. Let's, with the Heart's Cryptor, trigger the effect of the link decoder, summon itself onto the field. We're now going to be linking off the Wicked and the Cryptor going into the White Binder. Again, emphasizing that I have not used my Wizard yet. We're holding on to it. We're now going to White Binder, activate, target a Dormouse and the Cryptor to banish both. That will trigger the Cryptor to resummon itself back onto the field. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to White Binder, activate to set a GWC from the deck. As the Cryptor returns the MTP back into the deck to non-target banish the Binder. Binder is now going to be triggering to reborn itself back onto the field to now also draw a card. And what's important to note is that even if they were to blow us out with the Nibiru, we are still going to have great plays on their turn through the GWC and the March Hare. Let's now link decoder and the Cryptor go into a Firewall Dragon next to the White Binder, similar to the other combo. We don't want to summon it in the extra monster zone, and we want the White Binder to be pointing to next to under the extra monster zone. Now we're going to Wizard, reborn the Chessy Cat from Engrave. What's crazy about the Wizard is whatever you summon from graveyard is activatable it's not negated like a Splash Mage Reborn. So now we could use the Chessy Cat to banish the March Hare to draw 2 cards. Now we're going to further link off into a Lingaribo. We're going to use the Binder, Lingaribo, and the Chessy Cat to go into the Allied Code Talker Ignister, activating to reborn 2 bodies from Engrave. A good thing to point out here is, where is our March Hare? Well, the Firewall Dragon can target up to 3 monsters from either field and either graveyard to add it back to the hand. And we do have a March Hare in graveyard because we used 2 copies of March Hare. One is banished, the other is engraved. So when we want to activate the Firewall Dragon and return their own monster, make sure you return back your own March Hare. Even though it is not required, we do have the GWC, but it is a further layer to ensure that our disruption goes through. And of course, we still have access to the Cryptor, the MTP, the negate with the Allied Code Talker Mate, the triple return with the Firewall Dragon. We also drew 3 off of the Binder and the Chessy. Just like that, that is the new play. And just to showcase that, we're going to Firewall Dragon, target their monster, plus our 2 cards engraved. We're going to give ourselves the follow-up of Wizard and the March Hare, which could be activatable here. Now, what do we do if the opponent has Artifact Lancea against us, but we already have access to our backup Ignister? No problem. If we have a Maliss, I'm going to first be showcasing with Maliss, then I'm going to showcase it without Maliss. So normal summon your Maliss monster, link it off into a link decoder. Let's activate the backup Ignister, search in our deck for the Wizard. Discard our own Lancea, we don't need it. Let's summon our Wizard, reborn back onto the field the Dormouse. Because we have a Maliss monster on the field, only then can we go into a card like Red Ransom. Red Ransom is going to be Chain Link blocking and Ash Blossom, putting the link decoder on the higher chain link, and then we're going to be searching our deck, not for the field spell because we can't banish this turn. Instead, we're grabbing a Maliss and Mirror. Anytime you want to go into the Allied Code Talker, first make a Lingaribo, then let's go into the Allied Code Talker Ignister. Let's trigger the effect, activate, reborn back onto the field, Red Ransom Mate, and all of this was through a Lancea. Now, what exactly do we have here? It looks like we have just 2 disruption, but we actually have 3. We can negate and banish anything with the Allied Code Talker. We can negate any monster on the field, and then we're going to set an MTP from the deck through just activating the Maliss and Mirror, and I'm going to showcase exactly how that works. Let's see what the opponent has. It is a Raziel matchup, so they're going to send the Aggregator, which will turn off the negate of our Allied Code Talker. We do lose out on that. It's going to Chain Link block it, so I can't negate the X-Raziel, which is fine. We're going to use the Maliss and Mirror instead, which does not care about a Chain Link block. While the Allied Code cannot negate it, still our Maliss and Mirror will negate it. And because the Allied Code Talker is going to be negated by the Aggregator, let's just reborn back onto the field our Lingaribo. As we now resolve the Maliss and Mirror, banish away the Red Ransom here to negate the X-Raziel. Let's trigger the effect of the Red Ransom as he now activates an Impulse, but we have a Lingaribo to negate. Now, I know Raziel does not play this, but just to showcase the power of Lingaribo in some rare circumstances, let's now further trigger the effect, I should say resolve the Red Ransom, banish the White Rabbit. We're going to be searching our deck for a follow-up play if they do not surrender here. White Rabbit is going to be summoning itself onto the field. As we also search our deck for the field spell, let's trigger the effect of the White Rabbit, setting an MTP. Now, whenever we want, we could use the MTP to non-target banish a card in the field by banishing the White Rabbit, and just like that, a banish, a negate of a monster effect, and negate anything mate. And we have a March Hare here, which what can we do if we want to? Well, in the same turn of using the Maliss and Mirror, we could banish it, summon our March Hare. Well, we started off with the Dormouse here, so let's use the Maliss and Mirror, banish the Dormouse, and of course, summon the March Hare next to your Red Ransom if they actually had cards in their hand to make it untargetable. Reborn onto the field Dormouse. We have a follow-up, all of that through an Artifact Lancea. Now, what happens if they activate Artifact Lancea and we only have backup Ignister? For some reason, we do not have a single Maliss name in our hand, which even a March Hare would work here. That's fine, we still have an alternative play. Let's normal summon the backup Ignister, unfortunate, because I don't even have a hand trap to normal summon. We're going to be searching our deck for the Wizard, discard any card from our hand here. Let's link it off into a link decoder. Let's now activate the Wizard, special summon the backup back onto the field. As we now further link our 2 monsters behind the link decoder into a Splash Mage, activate Splash Mage, reborn a backup or Wizard from the graveyard, and let's now make a Heat Soul. If you're playing Heat Soul, this is a great option here. We're now going to be drawing a card, not only on our turn, but also their turn. You can play a Transcode Talker instead if you don't care about drawing as much, and Transcode would make your monsters untargetable. Let's reborn back on the field the link decoder. Let's link this off into a Lingaribo before making the Allied Code Talker, and let's turn all 3 into the Allied Code Talker Ignister Ignister, which will now trigger to reborn back onto the field the Heat Soul. And now, during the opponent's turn, we're going to draw into a second card, which ideally, between the two draws of Heat Soul, we're maybe drawing into a much-needed hand trap, and if not, we still have the negate of the Allied Code Talker Mate. And of course, this is not that crazy, not that ideal. We do play a lot of Maliss monsters in our deck, so if we could have normal summoned a Maliss, literally any of them, we would have had the other combo instead, but this is still great. And that is the Tier 0 updated Maliss combo guide. Again, this is the core of Maliss, but I do highly recommend you should be playing Link Spider. I understand that some people will not want to play it because Nibiru is not as prevalent within Master Duel. And then for the other cards on what you'd want to put in, you could look at the Maliss deck breakdown, which you could see there from the tier list. And if we click on Tournaments Only, I'll showcase to you all of the non-engine techs of what you could decide to put in to fill out the rest of your deck.